Hi, welcome to our YouTube channel once again, and in this video we'll see how to install the Kali Linux that we already have downloaded. And we know in our previous lessons we have already downloaded it, and we have also downloaded the virtual machine, the VMware player, so that we can install it on the VMware player as a virtual machine, not as a host computer. So let's get started. So I'm gonna open our VMware, double click on here. It's really very easy to install the VMware workstation, because you have to double click on the setup file that you have downloaded, and it will guide you through all the installations. So it's really easy. So here what I have to do is I'm gonna create a new virtual machine, and I'll click next. Here it is the Linux that we are going to install, that's Kali Linux, and it's the Debian 964, because the Kali is not listed in here, so you can't select the Kali. So we are going to select the Debian because it is based on the Debian version. I'm gonna put a name it to Kali Linux, and where you wanna store it, so I'm gonna install it in my temporary disk. So it's a partition of 182 gigabytes. I'm gonna click OK. I have a folder inside it. I have named it as Kali Linux, and it's empty. I'm gonna click OK and next. Now it shows me how much disk of you wanna give it. So I'm gonna give with the 150 GB. So it shows store virtual disk as a single file or split. So it shows splitting does it makes the easier to virtual machine to another computer. So I'm gonna click next. Customize the hardware. So customizing hardware gives you how much RAM you want to give it, and how much processors do you want to allow it to use, and what is the network. So in the memory we will give it 2 GB of RAM, and I will give it the three processors. And in here, so I have to use the ISO file, new CD DVD that I have already downloaded, and here I'm gonna use ISO image so that I can use my Kali Linux, and it is stored in the operating systems Linux, and it's the Kali Linux here. So I'm gonna click OK. So here if you wanna update the network, I have used the net. It means it is using the host computer's network. If my Windows 10 is connected to the Wi-Fi, the VMware will automatically use that network. Here it shows the display. The Kali Linux supports the display in 3D graphics. So I'm gonna select it, and I'm gonna give it a memory of 100. I'm gonna give it a memory of 1 GB, and I'm gonna click close. Now finish. So I'm done with the creation of the Kali Linux. Now you know how it's really easy, and now you have to power on the machine so that we can install it. And we have already given it 150 GB of hard disk, and we have to see what is gonna that happen. You can use the 100 GB, 50 GB. The recommended is you must have a 2 GB of RAM and 20 GB of hard disk. That is enough for complete full-fledged the Kali Linux system. I'm gonna here double click, and it's gonna it's gonna open the Kali Linux here. Okay, so here I will go with the graphical installation. But if you want to go out of this the window, like if I will click there, I can't move my mouse out of this small box. So if you want to go out of it and want to use internet for this, sometimes if you forget to see the graphical installation, what to select, and what if something happens in this installation, during the installation, how can you see it? And if you want to browse the internet at the same time, you have to click the control and alt. Now I am out of this box. My mouse is now, it can move out of this box, but if I am inside this, I can't use it now. So I have to press control and alt to get out of it. Here I will select the graphical install. If I select the install, it will install only with this the command line interface, but graphical will give me the both the graphical line interface, graphical user interface, GUI, as well as the command line interface. So I'm gonna go with the graphical installation and press enter. Here it is started. The installation has started now. you have to select the language. Which language do you use? I'm gonna go with the English, and here you have India, Ireland is New Zealand, so I'm gonna go with the India. No, I must go with United States because it's gonna do have some. I might face some problems with the keyboard setup because there is a difference of the keyboard setup. So I'm gonna go with United States, and American English is going to be my keyboard. And now it's loading the installer from the CD. Well, we don't have actually CD, so we have put a virtual ISO image which we have downloaded, not in this USB or CD. If you have USB or CD and wanted to use your the Kali Linux as a host machine on your computer, not with this virtual machine, you can use it like that. The procedure of installation is same, only the difference is here you are safe. If something is, if a system failure happens here, you can delete your the virtual machine again and you can install it again. But if that failure happens during installation with the in a system directly as a host machine, you might do some problems with your system, you might lose data. So if you have a backup of your system, be sure if you are doing this first time, you must have a backup of your system. Or if you don't have backup, it's really recommended for you, for the beginners, to install it as a virtual machine in a VMware station, or you can use a virtual box. Here I have to put the host name of the network. I'll continue here. So here it says the domain name, and it is the internet address. So I don't have a domain name, so I'm gonna click enter, and now it is configuring the network. No, it will ask now. I have to set the root password. So make sure that the root password is strong if you are using it for a professional use. Any other person cannot access your system, or it must be very difficult. So I'm gonna set a very small password that is going to be easy to remember. So and remember one thing, don't forget this password. If you are very bad at remembering things, you must write it on something so that you can remember it later, because you might face the problem if you forget the password. You have to install everything from the beginning. So I'm gonna click continue here. Now it's gonna say me which clock do you use, so I'm gonna click on the Eastern. It's detecting all the disks, and now it will ask me for the disk partitioning. So let me have some here. It says guided use anti-disk. So the what guided do is, it is the system configuration based, so it chooses all the partitions itself. So you don't have to look for something different. You don't have to choose, you don't have to make your own partitions, and it will be very easy for the beginners because they don't know how to set up the partitions. And the next one is guided use anti-disk as the setup LVM. What LVM is actually, it is the logical volume manager. So the logical volumes, we actually use the logical volumes, so it is the logical volume manager. It You have the two features of the Kali Linux in here. The partitioning is, one is encrypted LVM, another is only LVM. LVM, it enables you to dynamically enable the memory usage. So suppose if you have a 60 GB hard disk in your system and you are installing Kali Linux, now you are installing the packages again and again, you installing software, putting files in it, and the 60 GB, it's going to be full. Every partition, doesn't matter, either you have 4 or 5 partitions, so it's going to be full of files. Now you don't have a space to store files. What it is going to do is, LVM enables you to, when you insert a new suppose external hard disk, or when you insert another hard disk into your system, suppose it is going to be 50 GB or 100 GB, what the LVM enables the system is, every partition can have benefit from that external, the new disk that you have inserted. So what is gonna happen is that LVM enables you the dynamic configuration, so the dynamic memory management. So it enables the partitioners to use a new disk if it is you entered it. Now guided, use anti-disk as a setup encrypted LVM. So if you wanted to encrypted LVM is used if your computer is lost or your hard disk is lost, and now you want your data to be safe, and you don't want to lose you don't want others, the person who stole it, you don't want him to see your the private files. You can use encrypted LVM. In encrypted LVM, you are asked for a password, so you have to enter the password every time you start the PC. It's not the root password, it's called the passphrase of the LUKS. It's the LUKS is a configuration that enables PC to encrypt the hard disk. If it is stolen, the person cannot enter your personal docs. So manual, you can enter manually all the disks. So I'm gonna go with the manual partitioning, and I have here SCSI 300 is 161 GB, and it says do you want to create a new empty partition table? Yes, I want to create a new empty partition table. Now here it is, free space. Now I have 161. I'm gonna select the 90 GB of my hard disk for the let's select 50 GB of it. It's for the primary usage, and it's going to be the beginning. Now it's the mount point is root, so make sure that it is anything you have to select for the boot and the home, the temporary files, the variable files. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to select it for the root. What is these files are, the root selects the root is selected as the partition where all the system files are saved. The boot actually stores the bootloader. So the grab bootloader is the default bootloader of the Kali Linux or any other Linux system, most of the systems, and Windows has its own bootloader. It is, I think, called the Windows Boot Manager. So home stores the private files, and all of these folders store some personal data, some data. So I'm gonna select first for the root, and every file will be installed into the root. So I'm gonna select 50. It's good. I'm gonna go done with the partitioning up, and in the top you have to select the ext4 journaling file system. Done with the system. Now I have 111 GB. Now I'm gonna create one more, and it is going to be almost I think we should make it 90. No, let's make it 80. Continue. I'm gonna make it primary. You can have only primary files, four primary partitions, but you can have any number of logical partitions, but I will make the logical root. The kernel and the root must be primary. The root stores all the system files, and the kernel of the system is also stored in a primary. So the others can be logical, but those the root and the kernel files, it must be a primary. I'm going to make this a logical, and it shows the beginning of the location of new partition or the end of the new partition. So I'm going to put beginning. It doesn't really matter. So here it is home, and I'm going with done setting up this partitioning, and I'm gonna click here. It's 31 GB remaining here. I'm gonna create another one here. I'm gonna select 1 GB. I'm gonna select 1 GB. Let's say it's going to be 2 GB because I have to use it for the. Let's put it 2 GB, and continue. It is going to be the boot partition where all the boot files. It must not. It's not important that it must be a large size. It can be very small size. It must contain the boot files, and that's it. It can contain your personal files or photos in the beginning, and it must be here the boot static files. Okay, so now I'm done with the partitioning of this partition, and now I have 29 GB. Now what I am going to do is I'm gonna make one more folder for variable. Okay, so first we will make one more for temporary variables. So let's create continue, and it's going to be a temporary variable for 5 GB and we can continue here. logical, and it's going to be the beginning, and it will be temp. What is temp? Here is the temporary files, and again done setting up the partition. Here I have 24. You cannot, it's not important you must create these partitions. You must have three partitions that are important. One is home, another is root, and the boot is not important, the tmp is not important, because if you don't make boot, it is it's gonna do all that settings into the root folder or home folder. So why I am doing this is it looks really good to keep files in different the folders or the different partitions. So your partitions will not be flooded with the different files, so you will get confused which files are those. So when it is in a different hierarchy, so it gets really easy to access the files and understand which files are in the folders. So you can make only root, or you can only make home. It's not important that you have all this thing making a different variable. Why I am making this, I am just, it's really good to do this, but it's not important. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna make a variable partitioning. Again, I'm gonna select here approximately 5 GB, and it's going to be logical, and I'm gonna make it here the variable data. It's the static data and the variable data. Let us set it user, and let me set another. Let us create another 5, and I made one for static data. I'm gonna make one more 5 for the variable data, and it's going to be the variable data. Yeah, now I'm gonna make, so now I have 14 GB. Let's use it for the swap partition because I don't need a lot of primary. So logical, I'm gonna use it here. If you, the swap area is actually used for the external the extra files. When your RAM is full and the system gets hang, or it is not accessing the more RAM it needs, so it uses swap area in place of RAM. So swap area is really important. So I'm gonna done with this partitioning. So finish partitioning. Now it's gonna delete all the files in these partitions. So I don't have anything. Let's finish the partitions, and it shows write the change to the disk. Yes, we want to write the change to the disk. Now it might take few minutes here. You have to wait. Now it's installing the system, and maybe it will take a long time, so it's better to pause the video here. Here it shows use a network mirror. So network mirror, if you choose yes, so it will download all the components, and you don't need to configure the sources.list later for the repositories. And if you choose no, so you have to, if you choose the no here option, so you have to configure the sources.list yourself, and you have to insert the repositories in there. So I will choose yes first, and I will continue, and it shows enter information manually. I'm saying yes, continue. So here it shows the http proxy information. I'm gonna http dot kali.org, and I'm gonna enter it. I'm gonna enter it here so that I can get the latest updates from the Kali. Here I choose the no, so we'll see what happens. So it is installing the grab bootloader. What grab bootloader is, it is the boot record. It is the first thing that will appear whenever you start your PC. And if if the Kali Linux is installed as a host machine on your computer, so it will find all the operating systems. Suppose if you have Windows 10, Ubuntu, and you are trying to install Kali Linux, it will find them, and it will install the grab bootloader, and it will also write an entry for those. So you can choose it in the grab bootloader which operating system are you wanting to use, are you willing to use at a particular time. So I'm choosing here yes, because it will not run without grab bootloader, so I have to continue installation, and it's going to be the Dave SDA. Now it's running the grab bootloader. It might take few minutes or maybe a few seconds. You have to wait sometimes. Now finishing installation, and Now it might restart the system. So uh, so here what we're gonna do is we're gonna stop here because it is going to restart the system after the installation. It is almost done, so we will see you in the I'll see you in the next video, and we will see how we can get it into the complete full screen.